I'd been counting down the days to our family dinner, circling it in my mind like a promise. Then I saw the photos. Every single person was there, except me. I called my brother. He laughed. Haha, we forgot. My stomach twisted. I hung up without a word. Only then, slowly, finally, they seemed to realize what they'd done. I stared at my phone, Stephen's laughter still echoing in my ears. Haha, we forgot. Like it was a joke. Like I was a joke. Like I was nothing. I set the phone down, fingers trembling just enough to feel it. The screen still showed my aunt's Facebook post, a carousel of bright, happy images, smiling faces, glasses mid-toast, warm light spilling over the dining room I knew by heart. Everyone was there, my cousins, my aunts and uncles, my parents, Stephen, even distant relatives I hadn't seen in years. Everyone except me. I swallowed hard, the emptiness in my gut sharp and deep, like being punched from the inside out. This wasn't some last-minute hangout. This was the family dinner, the one I'd been waiting for, counting down to. Just a few days ago, I'd been on the phone with Mom. "You'll be there, right?" I'd asked, my voice full of hope. "Of course, sweetheart," she'd replied without hesitation. "It'll be so nice to have everyone together. You work so hard. We all miss you." I'd smiled. Actually smiled. For once, I felt like I mattered. I'd even bought gifts, something thoughtful for my parents, a small thank you for hosting. Even Stephen. I'd gotten him something too, knowing he'd probably give me nothing back. But that's what family does, right? Apparently not for me. I scrolled through the pictures again, searching for any excuse. Maybe it was old, maybe it was a misunderstanding, but the timestamps told the truth. Yesterday. Last night, I'd been curled up with a book, heart full of anticipation, thinking, just a few more days. But they were already there, laughing, celebrating. Without me. They hadn't forgotten, they just hadn't cared enough to remember. My hand hovered over my phone. I shouldn't have called. I should have let it go. Pretended it didn't hurt, but I needed to hear it. Needed to confirm what I already knew. Stephen picked up after 2 rings. "Yo, what's up?" I didn't bother with small talk. My voice was steady but cold. "Was the family dinner yesterday?" A pause. 1 beat. Then, "Oh, huh. Yeah. We kind of forgot to invite you." And he laughed. Really laughed. Not nervously, not apologetically. The kind of laugh that shrugs off your absence like it never mattered. "You forgot," I repeated. "Yeah," he said, still grinning. "Oops, that was it. Oops." Like knocking over a glass of water, like forgetting to reply to a message. My chest tightened. My fingers clutched the phone until my knuckles turned white. I could have said more, demanded answers, shouted, asked why. But I didn't want answers anymore. I already knew. It wasn't a slip-up. It wasn't something that just happened. They had picked a date, sent out invites, planned a whole evening, and not a single one of them thought of me. Not one. My mouth went dry. I let out a quiet breath, then gently hung up. No goodbyes, no confrontation, just silence. I sat there still as stone, staring down at the phone in my lap. Stephen's laughter echoed in my mind. The worst part wasn't that they forgot. It was that they didn't care. To them, I wasn't family, not in the way that mattered. I was the dependable one, the helper, the wallet, the one who bailed them out, the one who was always there, but never really invited in. Useful until I wasn't. And that dinner, it said everything. They had what they wanted: wine, food, music, laughter. And I was nothing more than an afterthought. Maybe not even that. I could have sent them $1,000, bought every gift off their wish lists. It wouldn't have changed a thing. Something inside me broke then, not with a scream, but with a shift. No tears, no rage, just resolve. I picked up my phone one last time, scrolled through the photos again, their faces glowing with happiness, full plates, raised glasses. Then I closed the app. I opened my banking app instead. And I did something I'd never done before. I canceled Stephen's monthly payment. It had been automatic for years, a few $100s every month, covering rent, bills, whatever he needed. And still, he couldn't be bothered to send a text. A few taps, done. I let out a slow breath. For the first time in years, I felt lighter. Not bitter, not vengeful, just free. I didn't reach out to anyone. Didn't ask my mom why she didn't tell me. Didn't ask my dad if he noticed I wasn't there. I waited, and I didn't have to wait long. A few days later, my phone buzzed. A message from Mom. "Hey, sweetheart. Hope you're doing okay. Steven is having a tough time with money again. Could you send him something this month?" I stared at the screen, lips curling into a small, knowing smile. The words came to me without effort. Ask him why he forgot to invite me to dinner. But I didn't send it. I closed the chat instead. And let them wonder. I let them sit with it. Maybe, just maybe, they'd start to wonder why I wasn't answering. Or maybe they wouldn't. Maybe they'd brush it off like always. Blame it on me being too sensitive, overreacting. Didn't matter. For the first time in my life, I felt no pull to fix it, no guilt, no pressure to smooth it over or play the peacekeeper. Instead, I sat with my thoughts. Not about the dinner, not about Steven's smug laugh, not about my mother's careful guilt. I thought about how we got here. I'd spent my whole life being the good one, the quiet achiever, the one who followed the rules, stayed out of trouble, worked hard, made smart choices. And what did it earn me? Not respect, not even basic decency, just expectations. That was my role. Childhood was a lesson in invisibility, the golden boy, and the girl who blended into the background. My parents had one focus, Steven. They didn't neglect me, not outright. But in a house where all the light is pointed at one person, you learn fast how it feels to live in the shadows. Steven was the star, the wild one, the funny one. When he got in trouble at school, Mom would storm in like a warrior, ready to defend him. Those teachers just don't understand him. When I brought home an A, a glance, a nod. "That's nice, honey. Did you help Steven study?" Every win I earned was swallowed by his chaos. Even his mistakes had excuses ready. When he stole money from Dad's wallet, he's just a kid. When he cheated on a test, that teacher had it out for him. When he crashed his first car, it wasn't his fault. The roads were slippery. Steven couldn't do wrong. Me? I was just there. By our teens, I was working a part-time job, budgeting carefully, building a future. Steven? He floated through life, burning through every dollar that touched his hands. I still remember when I was 16. I'd saved for months to buy a used laptop, my own money, my own pride. Needed it for school. One day I came home and there he was, using it like it was his. "What are you doing?" I asked, panic rising in my chest. He barely looked up. Mom said I could borrow it. Borrow it? He'd downloaded games, changed all my settings, deleted files I needed. I went to our parents, furious. They barely blinked. "Rachel, don't be selfish." He just wanted to use it for a little while. I'd worked for months. He took it over in a day. And I was the one being selfish. That was the pattern, set in stone by the time we hit our 20s. I got into college on a scholarship, worked like hell, graduated, built a career in finance, good salary, stability. Steven dropped out, drifted. One job after another. Always a story, always someone else's fault. And still, he was the one they checked in on. Every time he failed, my phone would ring. "Rachel, sweetheart, Steven's struggling again. Could you help him out?" And at first, I did. I paid his rent a few times. I covered some of his bills too. Not out of love, not really. It was hope. This foolish, aching hope that if I kept giving, kept helping, maybe they'd finally see me. But they never did. The more I gave, the more they expected. The more I showed up, the more invisible I became. Steven lost another job. "Oh, honey, times are tough. I got a promotion. That's nice, but don't work too hard, okay?" Nothing I did mattered. I could have been a CEO, won awards, changed the world. And still, Steven would be the one they rushed to comfort. Me? I was just the one who cleaned up the messes, quietly, reliably. But as I sat there, letting all the pieces fall into place, I finally saw the truth. The family dinner wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a miscommunication. They hadn't forgotten me. They just hadn't thought about me at all. I wasn't part of the circle, not where it counted. I was the support beam, useful until I wasn't needed. But this time was different. I wasn't just swallowing it down again. I had already cut Stephen off. And now I was done making excuses. Done begging for love that was never freely given. Done trying to earn a place at a table I should have already belonged to. I would let them feel what it meant when I stopped showing up. Maybe, just maybe, they'd regret it. A few days later, my phone buzzed again. Not Mom. It was my aunt, the same one who had posted the dinner photos. "Rachel, I just realized I didn't see you at dinner. Were you out of town?" I stared at the screen, my heart thudding. Number I hadn't been away. I'd been home, waiting for an invitation that never came. I took a slow breath and typed, "Number." I wasn't. Then, after a moment, "I guess they just forgot about me. Send." And just like that, the first crack in their perfect little picture appeared. They'd forgotten me, but now they were the ones who would start to feel left out. I didn't expect much from her message. Maybe she'd shrug. Maybe she'd believe whatever story Mom spun. But something felt different this time. For the first time, someone outside my immediate family noticed I was gone, and that changed everything. A few hours later, another buzz. My cousin Emma. "Hey Rachel, I was just talking to Aunt Marie, and she said you weren't at the family dinner. What happened?" My pulse quickened. Emma and I had never been especially close, but we got along. And now she was asking, which meant people were talking. I hesitated. I could have brushed it off. Said I'd been busy. Let it fade. But not this time. I typed, I wasn't invited. Then, after a short pause, I only found out when I saw the photos on Facebook. Send. Less than a minute later, her reply flashed across the screen. "Wait, what? Are you serious? That doesn't make any sense." I didn't respond. I didn't need to say anything else. The seed was planted, and now I just had to let the truth bloom on its own. I should have known it wouldn't take long for Mom to catch wind of the whispers. The next morning, I woke up to a voicemail. Her voice dipped in that syrupy sweetness she reserved for damage control. "Rachel, sweetheart, I heard you've been telling people you weren't invited to dinner. That's not true, honey. It must have been a miscommunication. I'm sure we mentioned it at some point. Maybe you forgot. Anyway, let's not make a big deal out of this. Call me back, okay? Love you." I rolled my eyes and deleted it without hesitation. A miscommunication? She really thought she could rewrite the script that easily? They hadn't made a single effort to include me. And now, because people were starting to question things, she wanted to gaslight me into silence. Not this time. By the end of the week, the family group chat was practically glowing red. I hadn't said a word in it, but others had. My aunt. I still don't understand how Rachel didn't know about the dinner. Who was in charge of inviting everyone? Emma. Yeah, that's really weird. It's not like she lives far away or anything. My cousin Eli. Honestly, if that happened to me, I'd be pissed. Every time someone brought it up, Mom tried to smooth it over, downplay it. It was just a mix-up. No big deal. Rachel's always so busy. We assumed she couldn't make it. She's making this into something bigger than it is. But the harder she tried to spin it, the worse it looked. Because the truth was simple, and it was out now. They had excluded me, and people finally saw it. A few nights later, my phone rang. Not Mom, Dad. That alone told me how bad things had gotten. He almost never called. I thought about ignoring it, but curiosity won. Hello. Rachel. Hey. He sounded awkward, like he didn't know where to start. Listen, your mom's really upset. She thinks you're trying to turn the family against her. I almost laughed. I haven't done anything, I said calmly. I just told the truth. He sighed. You're making things harder than they need to be. You know how your mother is. She doesn't like drama. I took a breath. Slow, steady. Dad, I said quietly, why weren't you the one to call and invite me to dinner? Silence. A beat passed. Then another. I just assumed your mom had taken care of it. And there it was. He hadn't even thought about it. Not once. And now that it was blowing up, he was here, hoping I'd help patch things up. Again. I'm not fixing this for her, I said flatly. She did this to herself. Before he could slip into guilt mode, I ended the call. The next day, a new text lit up my phone, for the first time since the dinner. Stephen. Yo, why is mom freaking out? I smirked. I'd been waiting for this. I typed, I don't know. Maybe she finally realized I'm not just a paycheck. 5 full minutes passed before he replied. Wait, is this about you not sending me rent money? Dude, are you serious? You're really gonna be petty over a dinner? I stared at Steven's message and took my time replying. I gave you money for years, and the one time I was actually looking forward to something, you couldn't even remember to text me. Another long pause. Then finally, come on, it wasn't that deep. I almost laughed. Really laughed. I didn't even bother answering, just set my phone down and let him sit with it. In the days that followed, everything started to unravel, but not for me, for them. One by one, relatives began to see the truth. Mom's rehearsed excuses were losing their shine. Steven's entitlement, turning more and more people against him. Me? I stayed silent. No arguments, no explanations. I didn't try to plead my case, I just watched. And that's when it happened. Another message from my aunt, the same one who'd posted the dinner photos. Rachel, I just wanted you to know, I don't agree with what happened. It wasn't fair, and I'm really sorry you were treated that way. Something in my chest softened, uncoiled. For the first time, someone actually saw me, and that meant more than any forced apology my mom could have ever offered. By the end of the month, the tide had turned completely. Mom was on the defensive, scrambling to explain herself. Steven was broke, and no one felt sorry for him anymore. Dad? He gave up trying to mediate when he realized I wasn't budging. I wasn't bending. Not this time. And me? I had finally won. Not by shouting, not by begging, not by explaining myself to people who never cared to listen, but by standing still while they collapsed under the weight of their own lies. For once, I wasn't the outsider clawing for space. They were. They were the ones being left out, ignored, questioned. They were the ones explaining, spinning, begging. And I was just watching. A week after my aunt's message, another call came in. This time from my cousin Daniel. We hadn't spoken in a while. No small talk. Rachel, what the hell happened with your parents? I played dumb. What do you mean? I mean, why weren't you at the dinner? I figured maybe you had work or something. But then Emma told me you weren't even invited. I exhaled, calm and measured. Yeah, I wasn't. He was quiet for a moment, then muttered, That's messed up. And now my mom's pissed because your mom is acting like you just decided not to come. I smirked. Because that was the real issue. My mom wasn't sorry she hurt me. She was sorry people knew. And while she tried to salvage her image, Steven was facing a much harsher reality. His safety net? Gone. The impulse buys, the late rent, the emergencies. That was me. I'd been there for all of it, until I wasn't. And it didn't take long for panic to set in. A few days later, he showed up at my apartment. In person, for the first time since the dinner that changed everything. And I wasn't exactly thrilled to see him now. I opened the door, raised an eyebrow. What do you want? Steven sighed, hands shoved deep into his pockets like he was the one who'd been wronged. Can we talk? I folded my arms. We are talking. He shifted, uncomfortable. I know you're mad about the dinner thing. Mad? I cut him off, tilting my head. I'm not mad, Steven. I just finally see things clearly. That threw him. He blinked, clearly not ready for that kind of honesty. Okay, well, whatever, he muttered. But, I'm in a tight spot right now. Rent's due in a few days, and I was wondering if you could help me out. I stared at him, long enough that it bordered on absurd. For a second, I almost laughed. Because he still didn't get it. Let me get this straight, I said slowly. You didn't even think about me when planning the family dinner. You laughed when I found out. And now you're standing here asking me for money? His jaw tightened. Rachel, come on. You know how things are for me. Mom and Dad can't help. You're the only one who... No, he blinked. What? No, I repeated calmly. Figure it out yourself. His face darkened. Wow, seriously? You're actually doing this? Doing what? I asked, voice cool. Treating you the way you treated me? He opened his mouth, then closed it again. For the first time, he had no script, no easy line to fall back on. Rachel, we're family, he tried. I smiled, unbothered, sharp. Funny. That's not what you thought when you forgot to invite me. And with that, I closed the door in his face. I knew it wasn't over. Stephen wouldn't apologize, but my mom? She wouldn't let her perfect little family fantasy fall apart without a fight. So of course she called. And this time I answered. "Rachel, sweetheart," she began, her voice dripping with practiced warmth. "I heard Stephen stop by. He said you weren't very nice to him." I laughed, short and dry. "Yeah. Well, Stephen wasn't very nice to me either. Guess we're even." "Rachel, please, don't be petty. He's struggling right now." "And I'm not," I said bluntly. "That's the problem, isn't it? You don't care about me. You care about what I can do for you." "That's not true," she insisted. "You're my daughter. I love you." "Really?" I said. "Then why didn't you invite me to dinner?" Silence. Long. Heavy. Then she tried again, softer this time. "Rachel, honey, it was just a misunderstanding. We never meant to hurt you." But I was done. "You did hurt me. And now that people know about it, you're scrambling to fix your reputation, not our relationship. That's not fair." What's not fair is spending my whole life being the responsible one, the helper, the one who always came through. And the second I wasn't useful anymore, you left me out. Another silence. This one felt real, like she knew she couldn't argue. "I have to go," I said. "And don't bother calling the next time Stephen needs money. That's not my problem anymore." Then I hung up. My parents would try to cover their tracks. They tried to explain it away, to smooth things over, to patch the cracks in the image they'd built. But it was too late. The damage was done. And my extended family, they saw it. All of it. Stephen's safety net was gone. My parents' favoritism laid bare. And me, I was fine. No, better than fine. For the first time in my life, I wasn't chasing their approval. I wasn't begging for scraps of affection or sitting by the phone, hoping for an invitation that would never come. I wasn't their fallback. I wasn't their fixer. I was choosing myself. And the best part? They were the ones who had to live with the fallout, the silence, the shift. A few months later, my phone buzzed. A message from my aunt. "We're having a little get-together next weekend. Hope you can make it." I stared at the screen, and for the first time in a long time, my chest felt warm. Not tight, not hollow. Warm? "Who else is coming?" I asked. She listed a few cousins, some aunts, a few uncles. But not my parents. Not Stephen. I smirked. They'd burned their bridges. And now they were the ones left out in the cold. I typed my reply, "I'll be there." Because this time, it wasn't their family dinner. It was mine.